Thanks, Kevin. Good morning. Hey, I hope you don't mind. I brought a few notes. Let me see. Hello, my name is Tony. Oh, wait a second. Actually, Kevin's point was, how do we win? And that's what we want to talk about here today. So if I want to define, let me get out of the way so you can see what it is. If I want to define a value proposition, what is it? A company's value proposition is a statement of benefits delivered by the brand that provide value to the customer. An effective value proposition should lead brand-customer relationship and drive purchase decisions. If I would translate that, right, what would I say? It's, why should I buy from you? And that's really what a value proposition is all about. And so I want to get us thinking about that a little bit today, and I want to break the audience presenter barrier just a little bit and say, how many of you guys have an iPhone? Good. So show of hands, pretty good show of hands. Scott, why do you have an iPhone? Best technology, right? So there's a quick answer. Scott's answer was best technology. Anybody else on an iPhone? It's really what it is. It's technology that liberates, right? That's really what Apple has hung their hat on. And if I look at, how many of you, anybody ride a Harley Davidson in here? No Harley Davidson? I guess I'm getting old. Only old guys ride Harley Davidsons these days, right? Okay, let me talk about another important brand, and that is Amazon. And Amazon just recently knocked Apple out as the most trusted brand in America. Anybody buy from Amazon? Quite a few show of hands. Show of hands, why do you buy from Amazon? Someone over here. It's easy, right? They make my life easy. Anybody else on Amazon?
Wide variety of products.
Wide variety of products, excellent. Anybody else, Amazon? Cheaper. So all of a sudden, you start to see a value proposition emerge. You start to see a value proposition emerge for Apple, for Amazon, and I could probably tell you what it is, but Harley Davidson's just for old guys. Next slide, please. Now think about this. The experts really tell us that there are really three axes that you can base value propositions on. And you can lead with a relationship. Some might call that customer intimate. You can lead with cost. Somebody might call that operational excellence. Or you can lead with technology, and we all know what they are. I think what I'd ask you guys to start thinking about is, first of all, give me examples of companies that lead in the cost segment. Anyone? Walmart, exactly. What about technology? I'm sorry? Sun Microsystems. Anybody else a competitor to us, maybe? Anybody? Okay, who else leads with technology? Anyone? Pardon me? Denso, sure. And then starting to look about customers that lead with a relationship. Who do you think that is? Nordstrom's, very good example. Anybody else? You know who else does when you think about it? It's Amazon. They know you better than you know you. They make recommendations that are really spot on and viable for you. Okay, so you think about that, right? And now, where does Remy fit? You start to put this all together, right? Are we the low-cost guy? Are we the technology guy? Or are we the relationship guy? Any thoughts on that? Let me just give you this, please. Okay, go ahead then. I'll repeat it. Go ahead, Susan. Susan brings up the point. I'm just going to try to paraphrase quickly, succinctly what she said. She said, really, we do parity probably on the cost piece. We do parity on the technology piece. But where we lead is in the relationship side. And if you look at Remy on the big picture, I'd say she's got a great answer here. She's very close to a lot of us would say the same thing. Would I say that same thing about what is our value proposition in China? So I think the point I want to make here is the value proposition needs to be very relevant to the market that you operate in. So as we think through value propositions, we think about heavy-duty motors. That may be a value proposition that's different than heavy-duty motors in China. Okay? The other thing I want to talk about, too, is if you don't have parity in the other two disciplines, you become irrelevant. Let me give you a couple examples of that. There was a time when McDonald's breakfast business was lagging off fairly drastically. Anybody know why? A company called Starbucks, right? And they had really changed the whole stop for a cup of coffee business. And so what did McDonald's do to become relevant again? Anyone? McCafe, I think it's McCafe, I think it's called. So they changed their model. Now, by the way, they didn't get better than Starbucks, but they got okay. They got parity. And that's the point here is you have to lead on one of the value axes, but you've got to have parity in the other two to be relevant. Okay, let's go to the next slide. A value proposition must be supported by the company's core competencies. Okay, supported by things that we're really good at. So you think about it. What are our strengths here? What's the strength of our product portfolio? What's the strength of our manufacturing model? What are our technology strengths? What's different about our strengths than those of our competitors? And then finally, the relevant part is, what can we really achieve? I think the most important point is that our value proposition must be relevant to our customers. So relevant, they're willing to vote with their wallets and pay for it. Okay? Finally, I want to go to, I think one of the other things that Kevin talked about a lot, it was organizational alignment and how a value proposition will drive activities. If we go to the next slide, please. Take a look at that slide and somebody tell me who that is. Southwest. Susan said it was Southwest. She's spot on. And so you can see this is part of their value proposition. It's probably not the complete value proposition, but let me ask you, if you think about that slide where we had the three axes, and you had relationship, and you had cost, and you had technology, which axis do you think that they're operating on? I think it's more, because I think that's a good question, and it's a little unclear, but really if I would define their whole value proposition, it would be to save time and to provide costs for flights that are 30% less than full-fare airlines. So that gets you right to the operational excellent model, right? It gets you right back to they're on the cost side of things. But more importantly, what I want to talk about here is organizational alignment, right? If I'm at Southwest and I read this, what does it drive me to do? What actions does it drive? Anyone? What's the first step up there? Save time door to door. What is it going to drive me to do? I'm going to turn planes. I'm going to turn planes fast, right? And that's really what they're all about. How quickly can I get the customer on and off of the planes? How quickly can I get them to point A to point B? I'm going to save that customer money. So when you start to see a clear value proposition, you start to see how it aligns activities in an organization. And that's what Kevin's talking about, and that's what we're trying to do here. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Okay, we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, now it's your turn, right? I've been rattling on up here for the last 5-10 minutes. Let's think about it. When you think about what do you think is our, think about, first of all, the segment that you operate in, whether it's light duty, heavy duty, whether it's alternators, starters, whether it's hybrid, whether it's Europe, whether it's China. And then think about how would you define the value proposition? And then finally, from your definition, what organizational alignment, what activities would it drive? Now, I know that's kind of a mouthful to ask you guys offhand, but I think there's some of you that actually give that some thought. How do we win? It's really what it's all about, right? How do we win? Why are we different and how do we win? And how should that change our organizational behavior? Her point is define what we need to do and then focus on that activity. And that's really what Kevin's striving to too. So I think she's right. She's spot on. What I'm asking you is, what is different about us? What's different about REME? Why are we different than our competitors? And why should I take my wallet out and say, I want to vote for REME? That's really what this is all about. She says the value proposition must be aligned with the segment. And I totally agree with that. I think that's spot on. But you know your segments, right? So if I operate, who's in heavy duty here? Show of hands. Heavy duty engineering? So if I'm operating in heavy duty engineering, I know that segment, right? So I know where I am, I know what I want to do. Why am I different? And Mike, that's the question I'm trying to ask here. Why am I different, and how do I win by being different? And then finally, how do I get organizational alignment around that differentiation? Okay, I can see that this one's going to require a little bit of thought. It's something they're not going to spit out. I wasn't thinking about value propositions when I woke up this morning, Monda, so I don't have the quick answer. But I'd like you to give it some consideration. So finally, if we can flip to the last slide. Okay, so what are we doing, right? Next steps are refining the value proposition. We're reaching out to you guys to help us refine it, right? Send me your thoughts. Send me your thoughts in an email. What market do you serve? These 3 questions, right? What market do you serve? Because it's back to Susan's point about it's got to be specific to the segment that I operate in. It's got to be relevant to that segment. What's our value proposition, right? Or how do we win? And then finally, what actions, what organizational actions, what alignment will that drive? And to Kevin's point earlier, we'll take those things, we'll drive those, how do we win into the strap? But more importantly, put into the long-range document is we'll align the organization around to flawlessly execute and deliver that value proposition. I look to Southwest as that perfect example. If they want to turn a flight in 15 minutes and save you 30%, boy, they've got everybody hopping and jumping to make that happen. And that's what we need to do as an organization to win. So finally, when you put it all together, most importantly, we profitably grow, share, and customers. We win in the marketplace. So if you would, I'd love to have your thoughts on that. The other thing we're thinking about doing, give me your thoughts. We get some good response. Let me make my notes here, make sure I'm clear. We'll publish and recognize the most relevant and best ideas, okay? So that's thoughts on value proposition. It's a little deep subject. Appreciate your time today. And with that, I want to open up the questions. And it's be questions for, remember, Kevin didn't get a chance to take questions, so it's both for Kevin and myself. Okay?